Well, Eric, looking at things here this week, of course, taking a look at a recap of just the severe weather that we had in some places, particularly in the Western Corn Belt this weekend, that kind of stretched across parts of the Midwest. Kind
Yeah.
of talk about that and a little bit of the impacts that we're seeing here to kick off the week in the short term, as well as we've been observing a little bit of some soil moisture deficit growth in the Eastern Corn Belt.
Yeah, so you're right. The weekend was pretty rough across some very productive acres. It started in South Dakota, Minnesota, Iowa, then got into Illinois, got into Wisconsin, got into Indiana. And these are just a look at the reports from over the weekend alone. But what you have to remember is that sometimes you look at these maps, you just see dots, but every one of these dots has something like this. I mean, that's over in a little town called Homer, Illinois, which is just outside of where I live here. This is a view from above taken by my colleague Andrew Pritchard of just, I mean, look at this whole field laid flat. And it was interesting, right around like the farmstead here, the house and the barns, the corn was still standing, but everywhere else, I mean, and my point is, it's that little dot right there, right? I mean, this is what we're dealing with as the Corn Belt kind of gets shrunk overall by some severe weather. But what I think we often all see is like, oh, look, there was a bunch of rain with all of that too, which means oh, the crop's just going to keep getting better and better and better with all that rain. And when you kind of zoom in there and look at it, I mean, dang, some places along I-90 here picked up 5, 6 inches of rain over the weekend alone. And it's raining there now, raining there this morning, as it is. And then you look back over the last 14 days, and now we get to your point. I mean, okay, there are a few pockets showing up drier, although some of these got hit with some rain today. But look at this chunk of Illinois getting into Missouri, getting down here to Eastern Tennessee, Kentucky. I was down there right here last week in Martin, Tennessee. And I'm going to tell you, it was bone dry. And that's an area that's currently got 15 inches of surplus rainfall on the year, but they've gone into flash drought. So is this significant portion of Illinois, or excuse me, Indiana, Michigan, and Ohio. And look at the rest of Ohio. So we have questions, right? Like lately, it has been dry in these places. The statistics per climate district show us that August has not been a wet month unless you get into those little pockets right in through here in parts of the Corn Belt. So I did want to pull this up. This is the newest NDVI data, 5 weeks in a row now of new record highs. But do you notice at the very end there's a little bit of a downturn? Some of that, Dawson, is because of your state. Wait, I had Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio up. Hang on, let me go back because I was trying to compare you to the Eastern Corn Belt. They're still doing fine in these three states overall with NDVI. But ready? Here's the Iowa data. Now, when you see this, see that? Look at that turn down. We had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks in a row of record high. And just now, the NDVI currently is below where it was a year ago. You what is going on? I'd like to know what's going on in Iowa right now that their NDVI would take the downturn like this.
Yeah, I don't know if specifically talking to some producers. The most recent accounts that we've had is that things are, going all right in just the small pockets that we've talked about. So
Yeah.
NDVI specifically, no idea.
Well, I know there's disease pressure and high
Yeah.
disease pressure. And, I'll say this, it's still raining there. I mean, this was the radar from this morning.
Mhm.
Just look at South Dakota, Nebraska, Iowa, Minnesota, northern Wisconsin. We do have severe weather coming into that area tonight. But I mean, you can't deny that you go down south here, man, they need rain like mad throughout the Delta. And they're all kind of hoping that we could get a hurricane. But I mean, Aaron is going to miss. That's Aaron's satellite data today, hit category 5 on Saturday. Aaron's trajectory is going to mainly keep this way out to open ocean. But I'll just tell you this. I know it's a little off topic for ag, but if I surfed, oh my gosh, I'd go to the East Coast because these are going to be huge waves kicked off this system. Now, what I am interested in, let's see if this updates. They've now put this up to a 50% chance of this next wave coming through. And some of the forecast models, watch this reset here. If you keep an eye right here, see these L's I'm following? If that next system doesn't follow Aaron, so Aaron's doing this, but if this next system gets over here and starts to work its way into the Gulf, we could get ourselves a system that comes up the Mississippi. Now, that is wish casting. I don't see that. I'm just saying that it's a possibility out there. What I do know is that over the next 15 days, we're going to stack up a high over low in the Pacific. That's going to put a lot of heat back farther to the west and drive in some cooler weather into the eastern part of the United States. And we do definitely see that coming. So these days of excessive heat watches and advisories that we keep seeing here throughout the Mississippi Valley and surrounding states, I think that's going to start to back off here pretty soon. We do have the risk later today. Let's get an update on this map. There you go. Parts of Illinois, Wisconsin, severe weather, then the western high plains with severe weather. I am concerned about the risk of very heavy rainfall getting through this area. I mean, it just passed through Iowa this morning. Now it's heading into this region. But overall, if we just kind of play the next, 10, 15 days, watch it again. I'll just start it over. We've got limited chances of rain now. Models are trying to bring back more in later. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. We saw this morning. So this is a good. So look at these numbers. 1.22 inches, zero point 0.5, zero point 0.7, zero point 0.8. We've seen that. But there's a corridor in through here that's been drier and continues to stay kind of drier. And all the rainfall hopes for that corridor, look, they come in after day 10. You see that? So when you look at it, you say, well, show me the next 10 days. Okay, better rains here. We saw the rains coming through the upper Midwest, but this white and these darker colors represent a corridor through here that is drier over the next 10 days. We could also add to it to say, well, where's the week two precipitation? Where's it looking wet? Well, it's kind of here. And maybe we're looking at more drier conditions for sustained drier weather over in Indiana, Ohio, which is something you brought up. Eastern Corn Belt's been in drought. Are we going to keep it dry there overall? That's a major concern. It's also a concern if you think about the heat. Now, if you lop off the first 4 days of August, which were cold, right? And you bring on the temperatures since then, we've had multiple rounds of heat coming through here. In fact, this past weekend, which is gross. When's the Iowa State Fair, Dawson? I don't remember.
Oh, we just concluded the state fair this last Saturday and Sunday, and so we ended it with some pretty warm temperatures.
Oh man, same thing with the Illinois State Fair. And
Mhm.
I didn't even go. I hate to say it. I love going to the fair, but I was like, I'm not 101 heat index. I'm
Yeah,
s-
we hit it the last weekend, like when it first started, when it was still warm, but not as warm as it was yesterday and the day before.
yeah, ugh, it was gross. But I mean, the whole country was pretty hot. But take a look at this. Iowa, nearly your entire state has yet to get over 140 stress degree days. Now, St. Louis is at 398, Champaign is at 190. And you get above 140, history would say that in these ice states, we start to drop yield potential. Doesn't mean it's going to, but it starts to lose that potential. So we need to have some cooler air come in. And this is how things look by Sunday. So watch. Here's now, okay, hot, hot, hot. Then we start to cool it off. Look at that. That's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And the models are out there looking at like this. That's day 5 through 10. All the heat goes west where it has not been this summer, and it's starting to bring in cooler conditions into the Corn Belt that probably last out there to the beginning of September. That's the near-term temperature forecast. So Dawson, those are the things I'm watching in the near term. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, so we're in that time where we're trying to, finish this crop off. And so as we're talking, the Pro Farmer Crop Tour did kick off, and so they're looking at a lot of corn that is denting, hitting these final stages. And so we're just talking about this last little push. So kind of how is that expected to shape up to, especially for these I states that are starting to see those degree days? Is
Yeah.
that, pushing into the long range forecast that we still got to think about for that as well?
Yeah, and you're gonna hate this, but I have no idea. I mean, look at the forecast from the CPC. Now you're going, why don't you have an idea? Sometimes you get into fall and the signals that control the weather. Maybe it's the MJO movement, maybe it's the recurving of a typhoon, or maybe it's just the position of big high pressure cells. Everything's kind of in a bit of a state of flux. And no, that's not a cop out for us meteorologists. Like we just get into time periods where you go, well, should I just use history as my forecast? Should I use climatology? Should I use persistence? And persistence would say this corridor still storms, right? I mean, that's where the storms have been. But now the first 2 weeks of September, which is what's predicted here, we've got equal chances, meaning that we have too many variables that are conflicting to tell you what it's going to be. So don't take white as average. White is where we see an inconclusive signal. That makes sense? All right. Look at the European model. European model says this is what it's going to be like from August 21 to September 21. And you're going, oh, shoot, is it going to be dry in this corridor? That's what it says. And I'm saying, no, no, no. This is just what the week 2 forecast looks like. And remember, I showed it to you a minute ago. It was wet in through here and drier there. And what's going on is the model has no signal to build a story on. So it just leaves what we've had going forward. And that's what you're seeing with the anomalies here. I will tell you this. I am going to watch the tropics carefully because most models I see try to put above average precip in the Gulf. And it is the time of year that if that Bermuda high drifts off too far, anything coming out of the Gulf can go north rather than east. So I want to put that in the back of your head. But I also want to show you this. We do have La Nina-like behaviors in the Pacific Ocean and plenty of warm water here to fuel any tropical system and a whole bunch of warm water right there as well. And so I want to show you what historically happens under this configuration. We tend to be wetter in the northwest, drier in the southwest, and dry at times in the major river valleys in the central part of the United States. Now, most people don't complain about this at all because as we approach harvest, we want the crop to dry down. We need another rain on these beans. I know a lot of folks need that. Well, you don't need that in Iowa. In fact, I got a call this morning from a guy in Iowa. He's like, listen, I don't need any more rain till December. Can you just stop it? No, but I mean, that's the way it is. But this could be the forecast. Take a look at that, though. That would be a concern if the monsoon comes on early in September and October versus late October, November. There's some possibility that when you historically correlate La Niñas with our weather patterns, you can sometimes get this. And the last little bit I'll show you, Dawson, is these are the newest forecasts to complement the European model. This is not the European model, but it's the models we run in North America. And they are overall drier September, October, November. Not dry, but drier. So not a repeat of 2022 or 2024, but they do try to bring in a very La Nina-like winter precipitation pattern. And I'm going to be honest with you, if I'm going into a growing season, I don't mind La Nina in winter only because it tends to get really cold, which is good for our soil, and it tends to be very active with precipitation. Tends to be. Last year's La Nina, nope. The 2022 La Nina, nope. But historically, excluding those last two, we tend to do okay. So that's kind of the main narrative I'll carry going forward.
So when we're kind of thinking about these long range forecasts and kind of getting these signals put together for just kind of looking at September and finishing this off, are we just kind of waiting till next week now as we're getting close to that time period to see, okay, what does the weather actually do? And is that persistence going to go into the models versus looking at additional signals?
Yes. And it sucks, but that's what it is like right now. And I'll tell you something, the storms that just went through you in Iowa,
Mhm.
they were not forecast 2 weeks ago. In other words, the models were not overly aggressive on keeping the pattern going. So when you start to see that, you're like, all right, maybe I should take these equal chances and bias them wet for the places that have been wet and bias them dry for the places that have been dry.
Definitely something to think about too as producers are moving into getting ahead of that harvest. And again, yeah, you brought up September just has a lot of variability. We
Yeah,
had a
it does.
Facebook comment that, when we were talking about September, that just nobody really knows what that rain's going to do as people are trying to harvest that crop.
No. So historically, it's a drier month unless
Mhm.
you're on the Gulf Coast, unless there's a remnants of a hurricane. It's September and October. We call them fall and harvest for a reason, and it's climatologically our driest part of the year, which is what makes us so successful at growing a crop. We can get it out of the ground. But 2025 has been weird, right? I mean, no predictability into the growing season. We were living week by week for a long time there. We had all of these signals for drought that never manifested themselves in the way that we thought. The Eastern Corn Belt takes a beating. The Western Corn Belt gets like everything it could ever ask for. I mean, relatively speaking, I know there are people that are angry in the Western Corn Belt too, but what a weird year. So for me to come out and boldly claim what I think September is going to be would be folly. I mean, we just don't know. So we'll just talk next week and see if we have a better story.
All right, yeah, that'll work for me. And again, you said week by week, and we're going to continue to watch this moving forward. But always for this week, appreciate your insights, Eric, and have a great rest of your week.
All right, you too.